Hi, we're back with another episode of Youth Express, a program produced by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank for young people to express themselves on ideas and issues that matter to them. What do you do for entertainment? Do you listen to music, watch a movie, read a book, or go dancing to let off some steam? Whatever you do, we're all indebted to the people in the creative industry. In this series, we are meeting and learning more about some of the young people in our ECCB member countries who are involved in this sector. In our last program, we introduced you to 29-year-old Desi Brown, a creative enterprise entrepreneur from St. Kitts and Nevis. She shared with us her passion for the creative industry and the work that she has been doing. In this program, we take a trip to Saint Vincent and the Grenadines to meet Rodney Small, another young person making his mark in the creative industry. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Rodney Small is an outstanding pannist and musician. He is the mastermind behind one of the flagship events on SVG's entertainment calendar, Steel Expressions, and the owner of RS Music Academy. He is the coordinator of the creative and cultural industry in the government of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. And in 2022, he was officially named cultural ambassador by his country's prime minister. Rodney, it's a pleasure to have you on Youth Express.
It's a blessing being here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Great. Rodney, take us on your journey into the creative sector, from what sparked your interest to how you have developed yourself.
My story is very different. My interest was sparked of the curiosity. I'm being a very miserable 7-year-old, who was basically just waiting on my older sister to take me home because I was not allowed to go home on my own. And while my sister was doing typewriting classes, back then you were doing typewriting manually, I would run away from time to time from the waiting area and I would go down to the music room at the girls' high school. And one day, one of the tutors asked me if I wanted to learn how to play the instrument. At 8, 7, everything would be a yes. And that's where it started. I started learning the instrument. Of course, being a 7-year-old, very miserable, not really understanding what is happening or where this would take me. I then started learning other instruments within the band room. Not focus at all, not focus on one thing. But that's where it started, and it continued where I developed a love for music naturally, and quite naturally the creative arts, because my sister was a dramatist back then, and she was the one responsible for picking me up, taking me home, making sure that I'm not in any trouble. But while doing all of this, it started to grow on me that this is something that I love.
You went on to study arts at the university level, and you are on record advising the young people of your country to, pursue a career. It can be lucrative in this creative sector. So tell us from your experience and all that you have gone through and the struggles to make your mark in this field. Why do you encourage young people to pursue a career?
Simply because it's different. One, it's completely different. And I know as young people, we tend to want to follow what is trendy, right? I mean, it is not going to be an easy decision or easy move because we're still living in that mindset that there's no real living from the creative and cultural industry. But I am living proof. There are a lot of living examples and testimonies. But I would advise them because one of the things that I say to people every day as a creative, I can tell you what I value or what I worth, right? Because as a creative, if you come to me, you're going to ask me, Rodney, how much will you charge me to perform? Now, when you're working in a different setting where you have to report to work 8 to 4, I mean, they're going to tell you what your salary is, right? But as a creative, you could say, okay, my work value this, my work value that. I mean, for me, and as a creative now, one of the things that I've realized and one of the things that I do, I pay attention to other professionals, other businesses, see what they're doing, see what is working for them, and how I can interpret it into my creative space, my creative world, me as a musician, me as a creative professional, how I can do that. Now, the reality of it is that no other career or no other business can function without some element of the creative art. To challenge me on that, and I could show you because in your background right now, you have paintings on your wall. When you walk into a bank, you see paintings. When you walk into some establishment, you have some light music. When the politicians, they're going to say their speech, they quote from a poet. You know what I mean? So right now, even on the Zoom platform, the digital space, there's some creatives inside there making sure that we can see each other, making sure that, you know what I mean, everything is set up in a good visual space. You know what I mean? So yeah, the creative is a place to be.
The lovely paintings are actually from young students from across our ACCB member countries. They participated in our creative youth competition.
Nice. You see? And now it's being displayed. I mean, so every time you do a Zoom platform, a Zoom meeting or anything, it's in your background. So yeah.
Exactly. Rodney, one of the biggest challenges that people in the creative industry face is funding. We know of the potential of this sector, but for the industry to thrive, policymakers must make it possible for artists to monetize their talents and build careers that are financially sustainable. You sit now in the Department of Culture as the coordinator of the culture and creative industry. What are some of the ways that policymakers can support the creative sector?
Very, 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 very important question. Is a question I've been answering for quite a while. But there's two coins to it. We as creatives, and of course, as you said, the policymakers. We were known to always be doing what we do from a hobby level. It has always been about love, passion, and general a hobby. So I mean, the switch from that it's even happening now. So the switch from doing it for passion, love, hobby to now trying to get persons to understand that this is a business. It is a challenge, right? For patrons, persons who patronize, and for even the policymakers, right? There's still a challenge with monetizing within the creative and cultural industries. But one of the things that we're doing now currently in the department and I mean just the industry on a whole is to see how we can do an economic study because we have never done it. I mean, a lot of countries in the region have never done it. So we really don't know the true value of the creative and cultural industry. So then what are we asking for? How are we asking for funding if we don't know the real value of what we are part of, right? So that's one side. Now the policymakers now, the economic value, the contribution that the creative arts brings to a nation and a country is extremely it's extremely high. I mean, although it is not documented for some countries or it's not there on the books, we know it is. Now, investment in development is extremely important, and making an investment in a sector that is highly based on human resources is extremely important, because at the end of the day, you can lose your tourism sector in terms of the wonderful beaches and whatnot. You can lose your agricultural sector, but then your people remains the people with the talent to get these things going. So pumping money into these different sectors that is highly based on human resource is important for policymakers. But what we need to honestly do is understand the value of the creative industry. So I can go to the prime minister, or I could go to a company, or I could go to an international grant funding agency to say, listen, the music industry in Saint Vincent is worth 1 million. And I can then show you how this 1 million is spread across. So then you can now decide how you're going to fund it. But most importantly, where the policymakers are concerned, investing in your people, investing in your culture, which is also your identity, is highly important, right? Because I am not going to come to sink it because I just want to come to sink it. I'm going to come to sink it because I want to know what it's known for. I mean, what is some of the history? I mean, what are some of the important things that make you a kitchen? You understand? And then how do you deal with that? The government now have to put money in place to preserve all of that. So then now we're talking development, we're talking the value of it, and then now we have to talk about the preservation of it, right? The sustainability of it. So quite naturally, as our country develops, I mean, all these sectors have to develop, because one of the things that you realize now, a lot of people not coming to the Caribbean only for the beaches anymore, because we're making beaches. I saw a cruise ship that has a beach on it. I mean, as artists visualize it, it is there. We're coming to a country for your way of life. Your way of life has a lot to do with your culture and your creativity, right? So then we must invest in our people. We must invest in these very important sectors.
Ronnie, there is this mindset though that, we invite creatives to perform at functions, and we give them a little $50 or $100, and we say, well, at least we're giving them the exposure. But we know very well that exposure cannot pay the bills. What's your experience with this? I know at the standard where you are, you may not struggle with this particular challenge, but coming through the system and, having to deal with other creatives, you may have encountered this. What's your experience with this, and how can we lift the game?
I mean, this has been a plague. It's still a plague. It doesn't matter where I'm at now. And I know even persons who are at a higher level that I am, they're still experiencing this plague. I mean, very early, again, we have always been struggling with love, passion, hobby, right? So we from very early, we weren't able to make the switch. And now that we try to make the switch, it is creating a bit of a challenge. Honestly, as a creative, whether you're young or old, one, you have to seek guidance, right? I have to seek guidance very early, because I was always about wanting to play. I just want to play. I just want to play. I just want to play. But then I realized that as I get older, there are greater demands. I mean, life happens. I now have bills. I have kids. And I mean, I have to move around. And I mean, because you have to get from point A to point B to be able to perform. Right. To get to the venues, you have to make sure that you look good. You have to make sure that you sound good. So, I mean, the expenses are coming in, but going for $50 is not going to make sense. As I said, the principles have to apply. Now, you have to maintain. How do you maintain? Right? You have to value all the preparation time and you being able to prepare. Right? What does that cost? Right? Is it cheaper to stay at home, or it benefits me if I go do this performance for $50? Right? So we have to look at everything. I mean, and I learned this the hard way. We have to look at everything that you have to do in order to present yourself at a performance or a gig. Right? Now you cannot be operating at a loss. And I mean, for the younger creatives now, I mean, some of this might be foreign to you because you're probably not there yet or you're not that deep. But for me, I had to seek guidance. How do I go about look at people or approach people who have been doing this over a period of time and seek advice in terms of how do you make the switch from your love for it to the business side of it. Now, it is hard to separate it, right? But it is a marriage that you must have. So while you're on stage loving what you're doing, you also have to be able to sustain your business, right? And I'm using words like product and business for specific reasons because that is the conversation that we must have even from a tender age. I tell people all the time, take away everything that I have now, take me 20 years back with the knowledge that I have now. You understand? With this touch, be in a better stage, be in a better setting now because the knowledge that I have now, if I had it 20 years ago, but I have it now so I can share it with the young people who are listening.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much. So, having heard you passionately, what is your vision for the creative sector in your homeland, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, and the region?
For me right now in Saint Vincent is for us to have more young people, more people moving away from 8 to 4 or creating your 8 to 4 in the creative sector. Right? It's for us to stand and to listen. This is our sector. This is our contribution to the GDP. This is how we are to be treated. This is what we are looking for. And this is what we stand for. But we have to ultimately be a part of the conversation around the table. So when you're talking agriculture, when you're talking tourism, when you're talking finance, when you're talking security, you have to talk culture and you have to talk the creative industry the same way. And don't just see us as somebody to provide entertainment, but see us as somebody who is as important as the conversation of the development of our country. As creatives now, you got to continue to love what you do, try to see how much you can enhance and develop what you're doing, and take what you're doing extremely seriously. Because again, how you treat your career is how it's going to treat you. How you treat your career is how people are going to treat you. That's what's on my mind. And most importantly is development and preservation.
Great. Rodney, thank you very much for letting us into your creative space and sharing with us your passion for this industry. And we wish you all the best. Continue to create.
Thanks a lot for having me.
That's it for this episode of Youth Express, meeting and learning more about the young people in our ECCB member countries who are involved in the creative industry. We have been to St. Kitts and Nevis and Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. In our next program, we'll take you to the Nature Isle, the Commonwealth of Dominica.